Hey tea heads, this is Don from Mayleaf. In this video, we get to figure out how best to age white tea. I've lined my stomach because I'm fully prepared to get a bit tea drunk because I'm going to be tasting a lot of aged white tea here. This is the finale of our Baimudan aging study, a community study. We released a video just under 9 months ago, letting you purchase the same batch of tea for you to store the tea in different conditions so that as a community we could work out how best to age white teas. Because the fact is that whilst sellers and producers may tell you the best way to store aged white tea, the jury is still out on this subject because of the fact that aged white tea is a relatively new tea type. We still don't know exactly the processes that cause this delightful change in the tea, and we certainly don't know the best storage conditions. So rather than parroting other sellers or other producers' ideas, we thought we would put it to the test and do our own community study. So if you have purchased that study, then it might be an opportunity for you to break out your tea and see if you reach the same conclusions that I do. If you prefer to keep the teas longer, then feel free. I figured around 9 months is about the earliest that we could test this out to see if we get any conclusions. So if you want to find out really the specifics on how we stored each tea, then go check out that other video, but I'll give you a quick rundown. So this is the same batch of tea, a 2015 Baimudan from Fujian, and we've been working on 2 factors. The first is humidity, the second is air tightness. We could have also included temperature, but then that would have been way too many parameters for us to try to juggle at the same time. But feel free to continue the experimentation if you would like. So what we've done is we've taken the tea and we've separated it out. You may have separated it out into 4 pouches. I've actually separated it out into 6 pouches. So one of the humidity levels was dry. So we included some silica gel in the study kit so you could keep the tea dry. So dry. The other was 65% using Boveda humidity control packs. And I've also done a further experiment at 72%. So we've got dry, 65% and 72% humidity storage. And the second factor is air tightness. So for each of those humidity categories, we split it into 2 pouches. One pouch I opened every month to allow some air to go in. And the other pouch I only opened very, very quickly to take out the Boveda packs just to make sure that they were still active. And I don't know about you, but my Boveda packs, because I was using the larger Boveda packs, they stayed jellified for the entirety of this nearly 9 months, so I did not need to refresh them. So we would take them out, quickly check and put them back in and seal. So very, very as close to airtight as possible. One of the teas, the 65% humidity airtight, we kept in this Lotessier tea humidor, which was kindly gifted to us by Lotessier. A lovely piece of kit. I mean, really, really well made. And it's got space for all of the humidity packs. If you're interested in picking up one of those, then go check out Lotessier. Okay, so what Celine has done, because I want to blind taste this, of course, but rather than just having 6 random samples, I figured we should at least, you know, help this session along a little bit. So vertically here, I know that these are the same categories of humidity. I'm not sure which one, so this could be dry, this could be 65, this could be 72, I don't know. But these are all kept at the same humidity. And then we've got stickers underneath here. I'm not gonna lift it, but you'll have to trust me. Green stickers under here, and I've got green stickers on my Gaiwans and green stickers on my Gongdao bays. Celine has basically written down green sticker either equals airtight or it equals air has been allowed to flow. So basically we're going to be blind tasting, and I know the humidity sets, although I don't know which one is which, and I know that green sticker means the same thing. I don't know if it means it's airtight or if air has been allowed to circulate. Let's quickly take a look at these leaves. Very little difference. Obviously with Baimudan, it's a very sort of mixed bag of buds and leaves, and so you're going to get a variation in color. I can't visually see here any particular difference, so maybe this is too early to do the experiment, but let's see. I hope that we're going to start to discern some differences in taste. Okay, so now I've got to be super careful here that I don't mix everything up. So pardon me if I'm gonna be a little bit slow in organizing this, because I do not want to mess it up. I have a history of just sort of messing these kinds of blind tastings up a little bit, so I'm gonna take extra care. Okay, so we've got 3 different Gaiwan designs here. We've got our tea lifted Gaiwan, we've got our tea drunk Gaiwan, and we've got our Gong Fu Forever Gaiwan. So I'm going to be putting the same teas in the same Gaiwan. So as long as I don't mix up the lids, we should be okay. So I've got some hot water here, and I want to heat up this TEAWARE so we can smell dry leaf. And we shall see. I hope that if you purchased the Baimudan aging kit, that you've been as religious as I have at making sure that you air the pouches out. I said every 2 months, I did it every month. I don't know if it'll make much difference. I doubt it. And of course, as I said, if you prefer to, you know, leave your pouches for a little bit longer, in fact, it's a good idea for you to maybe watch this video, see if I come to any conclusions. If I find that there's not enough difference, then maybe leave them a bit longer. But I am excited, and I think that I should be able to notice a difference. Okay. Right, here we go. There's a lot going on in front of me. I need to make sure my sleeves are pulled back because I feel like a mess is about to ensue if I don't. So let's put these in and not mess it up. Oops, still a bit of water in that one. Okay. Right, so now we can tidy up a little bit because I'm pretty sure I did not mess that one up. Yep, that's TEAWARE just on the floor, but we have to make do. Right, here we go. Let's have a sniff now. So what we're gonna do? Let's sniff 1 humidity line at a time. Okay, here we go. Full of marzipan. Look, it's a delightful tea as it is. I should say in the warehouse, we store it airtight and we don't put any humidity packs in. So it's sort of, I guess, sort of relatively dry and airtight. Or it has the natural sort of humidity of the warehouse, which is probably around sort of 50%. Really delicious, sweet marzipans, a little bit of a sort of apricot peachiness, sugary. So these smell identical to me. So I don't really notice a difference in terms of the air tightness having an effect on the difference in smell, because I know this is the same humidity. I don't know which one is which. Oh, this smells completely different to this one. Okay, so I'm very happy because clearly there's an effect here. You see, don't mess up, Don. This smells alcoholic. It smells fermented. It smells spicy. It's got like a white pepper piquancy. It's got a really distinct, slightly alcoholic note. If I was putting my money on something, that would probably be a high humidity store. But I'm amazed at the difference here. Same. Okay, so again, same thing. I get the same smell between them. So clearly the humidity is the driving factor here, which is affecting the difference in the aroma. And this is really the point of this experiment. It's not just trying to work out which are the best conditions, but try to work out which of the parameters have the biggest effect on your tea. Interestingly, I would say, no, it's the same. It's the same. Got to be careful that you don't make things up in your head. Okay, let's smell this one. Oh, fruity. Oh, those apricots are really coming through. Apricot candies. It reminds me of Tokai, very sweet, the high Putonias Tokai, those really, the nectar of Tokai, like apricot, slight sour sort of acidity with the sweetness that comes from that dessert wine, botrytized grapes, very, very fruity and sweet and rich. Again, very, very similar. Let me just do a quick, yeah. So the snapshot here is, this one smells the most like I remember the tea to smell. Marzipans, a bit more nutty, a little bit more fresh, let's say. A little bit closer to the original leaf smell. So nutty marzipans, and the sweetness is like, yeah, I mean, it's got all of those elements. A little bit, I think I said melon in my tasting notes, so it's got a little bit of that, but certainly nothing like, oh, this one, super fruits, and this one here, mad, like a completely different tea. It reminds me of Bad, the bizarrely aged Tianhong that we have. It has this this alcoholic note to it. So for sure, whichever humidity this one is, and I'm suspecting already, although it's all been written down, I have to pull up the page here because Celine has written it on a computer. Believe me, it's hidden. I don't know, and she's done it by Gaiwan, so I know that tea drunk means something, but I suspect that this one is high humidity, 72%. But a very, very, very clear difference in the aromatics of the dry leaf, for sure. Okay, so I've got the 3 different styles of Gong Dabei to, again, help me not to mix up. So tea lifted is the round base, Lotus is tea drunk, and the hammered glass Gong Dabei is for the Gong Fu Forever Gaiwan. I got my little cat hiding behind here, but with all of this activity here, it's going to be very, very difficult. In fact, I might have to do a bit of juggling around of everything here. See, you always need bigger trays. I should have brought the satellite, in fact. That's stupid. I should have brought the satellite as my second tray. Let me just heat the water up. We want to go to around 95, maybe even closer to boiling point. I've got these little white cups here simply because I wanted standardization again to get an assessment of the color difference. And I've got to be a little bit careful now with my timings. So after I've done my rinse, I'm going to brew them all off camera just to make sure that all of the timings are right, because I want to do it with a stopwatch. But first of all, let's take this boiling water and do some tea rinses, so we can see if the difference in smell carries across. Oof, just burnt myself. Quick rinses. Cat is gonna be spoilt with a lot of aged white tea, as am I. As I said, I normally, I'm not really that fussed about eating before these sessions, but for this one, I told Celine, just give me some nuts. Let me line my stomach a little bit, because this could get messy. A lot of tea, a lot of aged white tea. And it is, 5 years aged already, so it already has that sort of potency. And this is what we, are trying to work out. We know that aged white teas has the aging process has an effect on taste and has an effect on the physical effect on you, whether or not it's a tea drunkenness or a sort of contemplative effect. And so it's important that we start to try to work out what is going on here, and that way we can age even better teas. Okay, so let's quickly have a little sniff down the line again. Yeah, very fresh. I'm getting more of that sort of winter air, slightly stonier note coming through. Let's see if the same humidity but different air oxygen levels make a difference. Yes, with the wet, I would say that this one has a slightly more rounded, warmer, less sort of that stoniness. a little bit warmer, but similar smell. Oh, wow, funky, crazy. Oh, fermented. Yeah, it's sort of edging to the point where I'm not sure I really like it that much. It's sort of got a more like a sort of musty attic sort of smell to it. It's nice, but it's sort of lost some of that fruity, warm, honeyed notes. Oh, again, seems to be a little bit more concentrated in the aroma. Same aroma or similar, but more concentrated and erring on the warmer side. See, I'm doing it again. I'm doing it again. Make sure you keep your guy ones together. I have a feeling this is going to get messy. Okay, an exact in between of these two. I'm getting the marzipan, I'm getting the freshness, I'm getting some of that winter air, but then a lot of that fruit. And the fruit is, again, dried apricots. A slight savory note as well. Sage, perhaps. And again, similar, almost identical smell, but seems to be, don't spill, seems to be slightly warmer, more rounded, and a little bit more concentrated. Okay, so now I am going to pause. I'm going to brew all of these, and we'll be back once they're all brewed to perfection. Here we go. So just to give you the brewing parameters, there were 3 grams per 100 ml Guy 1 with 97, 98 degrees, so practically boiling water, so about 210 Fahrenheit. And I brewed each one of these for about 40 seconds. Well, I want to make a really strong extraction. I don't expect to have lots of infusers of this, so I want to make a very strong extraction. It's very difficult to assess the color with the different Gong Da Beis, so let's immediately pour them into cups and try to keep things, again, organized as best as possible to see if there's any color difference. So it should be, I mean, they were timed to the second, so I expect these to be as close to identical brewing as possible. Look pretty similar to me. So despite the big difference in the aroma, just like the look of the dry leaves, the look of the liquor is pretty close. Yeah, I would say it's pretty close. Okay, so we're going to run through them. Right, what am I going to do first? I think what I'll do is I'll again, yeah, let me do per humidity group. Okay. Mineral to the fore. I'm getting that the smell of petrichor, the smell that the earth gives off when there's about to be a big rainfall in the summer. Slightly stony, but a lot of that marzipan, a nice creamy undertone there, sort of yeah, like marzipan, a little bit of that apricot. Very, very zingy and refreshing and bright and you know, that ionized air when you step out after snowfall. It has a lot of those sort of weather notes like petrichor and snow and all of that, but with this warmth that comes from the marzipan and apricot jam. Different, surprisingly. Less mineral, a little bit warmer, a little bit rounder, a little bit softer. More edging towards the honeyed notes, honeyed fruit notes. More brisk, more fresh. So again, difference in the way that it tastes and the texture according to the air tightness versus airflow. I'm not sure which one's which. Yeah, more concentrated, a little bit more vaporous, seems to have more of the aromatics. So just like in the smell, seems to be a bit more concentrated. Delicious, incredible. Like, super happy that I can get to taste all of these. All right, so here's the one that smelt a bit funky. Oh, what fruit is that? So it's definitely funked up. Definitely got more of a sort of tropical fruit, almost into the overripe fruit notes, sort of overripe bananas. There's a fruit, I can't quite, what is it? Maybe it's a star fruit or a guava, but it's definitely in the more tropical fruit, a bit more funky, a bit more sort of, it's fruits that have grown in more of a tropical environment, more heat, more humidity, for sure. Let's see if this is more concentrated. Yeah, more concentrated, warmer. Again, it's got a little like passion fruit, but take away the acidity of passion fruit and just sort of focus on the how do I put it? The tropical note of it, you know, those tropical juice drinks that you get that have passion fruit and banana and a little bit of is it guava? It might be guava. It just reminds me of when I go to like a hotel in the Far East, and you get those fruit baskets. And you get like, I don't know, guavas, custard apples, mangosteens, and passion fruits. Really, really, really different and delicious, but not something that I would necessarily ascribe to a classic aged white tea taste. Let's taste this one. Very, very honeyed. Extremely honeyed. And in between, I'm picking up a tiny bit of that guava note, a tiny bit of overripe banana, but not anywhere near the same amount. And pretty much, I probably wouldn't have recognized it if I hadn't tasted this one just before. But I'm getting the sweet nuts, the candied nuts, the snowy winter air note coming through as well, and a lot more of a sort of fruit soaked in honey. And again, I'm going to say apricot because it seems to be the most spot on there. Slightly different again, feels softer, feels smoother. Less of a sort of bracing quality to it, less of that sort of ionized air note happening, and but similar flavor profile. Oh, choosing favorites is not necessarily easy. I think that we may come to the conclusion that you should store your teas in different ways depending on what you want, which would be a good conclusion to reach, I think. It's nice to know that you have this kind of control, and I am amazed after just under 9 months at the difference that these storage conditions have brought here. I mean, I'm stunned. I was sort of expecting that I would be maybe sort of like fishing a little bit, trying to sort of eke out the differences, and I would recommend that you keep going with your aging experiment. By all means do, but you can definitely taste the difference now. A little bit more medicinal. It's got a slight a briskness, edging towards a sort of herbal bitterness just in the background, but not quite there. I did brew these strong. Let's see if you get that in the in this one here. No, you don't. So for sure, whichever one is the airtight versus the airflow, this is smoother, softer, less of that bite to it. Again, preference. Crazy, crazy. Pomelo, a little bit of there's a fruit, I'm not getting it. I want to say like cherries, but very, very overripe cherries. You know, so they're starting to get to the point where they're tasting a little bit over the edge, a bit overripe. Something maybe you wouldn't want in a fruit, but in a tea, it's really, really lovely sort of interesting flavor profile. Again, reminds me of the sort of intrigue that you get with the bizarrely aged Tianhong, that black tea that has a sort of fermented taste to it. Really, really has a distinct tropical fruit note, maybe like cherry wines. The marzipan is still there, but it is sweeter and it is more, yeah, it reminds me of, I don't know, I'm in my mind's eye, I'm seeing sort of marzipans with dessert wines, maybe some sort of ice wines, dessert wines, black cherries, a little bit of guava. That is more the classic aged white tea taste for me. Honeyed, sweet, warm, marzipan, nuts, and fruits. This just has a thicker, more rounded mouthfeel. So we definitely see some consistency here. The humidity has a big difference. So what is going on when you age tea? So we're going to ignore temperature for a bit because we haven't tested that. But there are two sort of processes here, and I will say from the outset that I'm not an expert in oxidation and redox reactions, so feel free to correct me if I'm wrong. But there seem to be two processes that we need to sort of figure out, or at least we need to consider. The first is oxidation, the second is fermentation. So oxidation being the natural reaction of these teas, which, don't forget, do not go through an industrial heating process, do not go through a Kilgreen process, so therefore there will be some enzymatic activity that is still active in these leaves, just like with pu'er tea. And so you're going to have enzymes that will catalyze the oxidation process. And higher temperature, oxygen and higher humidity will, if it follows basic theory, will contribute to a faster rate of oxidation. The second is fermentation, where you are having microorganisms that are living on the leaf that will work in usually a low oxygen environment, but with higher humidity to ferment the actual product, in this case, tea. Now, the assumption that I'm making, and again, it's an assumption which you are very welcome to challenge, is that fermentation is more likely to take place in lower oxygen environments with higher humidity. Oxidation is more likely to take place with more airflow, again with higher humidity. Right, if you ask me to pick my favorite here, or at least the one that is the most classic aged white tea taste, it would be this one. So this one here has that sort of honeyed, sweet, fruity note, but it's more soft and concentrated. But again, it really depends on your taste. If you're looking for something a little bit more brisk or a little bit more mineral, then I would be moving towards this side of the tray, so whatever the green sticker means, and less of this. If you want something that's softer and warmer, then go for this side. Certainly, we need to find out the difference in the categories of the humidity, so let's do that now. Let's pull this up. Finally, I get to see them. Okay, so tea drunk is the 72%. Okay, so that makes sense. So tea drunk here, 72%. So that fermented one, the one with the tropical fruit funk, high humidity, 72%. Tea lifted was the dry. So this is dry, this is 72%, this is 65%. That's exactly what I thought it would be. So dry maintains the sort of fresher, when I say fresher, I mean the original taste of the tea leaves. So keeping tea dry in general is going to sort of slow down all of the processes, oxidation or fermentation. It's going to slow it all the way down, and therefore you're going to get, you know, a more sort of stable taste, but you're not going to really contribute to the aging. The higher the humidity, the more the change. 65% I think is a good humidity range here for getting that classic aged white tea taste. If you want to boost it up and have a bit more of that sort of mad, well, a lot more of that mad fermented tropical fruit note, then upping the humidity definitely works. And that is common sense. This is why wet stored teas like pu'er teas have more of that funky fermented aroma and taste if you store it in Malaysia versus if you store it in UK, for example. So humidity, I would say, has the biggest factor here in terms of changing the effect of aging. I would say that airtight versus not airtight has a lesser factor. So that's a separate document here. I need to pull that up. So green is airflow. Again, that makes sense to me. So this row here has had air every month, you know, fresh oxygen every month going in. And that has led to, in my opinion, a more oxidized taste and texture. So I'm getting a little bit more of that black tea briskness, a bit more minerality, a bit more bite, a little bit more astringency. Slightly, I mean, the astringency side may be less, so it's more recognizable in the physical feeling in terms of the minerality and also the taste. It tastes more brisk, it tastes more bright. Whereas when you store in airtight, it seems that you are preserving the aromatics. Notice I said that it smelt and tasted a little bit more concentrated. So you're preserving the aromatics. Again, that makes sense because, you know, with airflow, you are dissipating some aromatics that build up in the pouch. You open it, you leave it for an hour. Those aromatics escape. So you get more concentration of aromatics and you get a softer, smoother, rounder mouthfeel. Now, and taste, I would say that definitely the taste seems to have a little bit more of a warmer feel to it, or a warmer character to it. So very, very interesting. And I would say that the takeaway conclusions are the biggest factor to affect the change in white tea is humidity. The higher humidity, the more you're going to change it. But if you make it too high or very, very high, then you're going to start to move into that alcoholic fermented note. So clearly there are microorganisms that are still living on this leaf, and fermentation is a major, if not the most important factor here for white tea aging. According to this study or this tasting that I've done, again, you may have different conclusions in your tasting, and I'd be very happy to hear your conclusions. So the idea, which is commonly talked about, I have to say, amongst tea producers and tea sellers, that the only aging effect with white tea is oxidation, I think is not true. Now, for sure, high humidity is going to contribute to more oxidation, so it may be that that's the case, but that fermented taste, which is just undeniable in this tea, that fermented taste, which is why I'm glad I did that 72% one, is for sure fermentation. It has to be fermentation. You don't get that alcoholic note without fermentation. So I think that fermentation plays a big part in white tea aging. And I would say that if you are looking to preserve the most concentrated level of aromatics and to have a more smoother, rounder tea, I would suggest that you keep the tea airtight. So finally, I get this question almost on a weekly basis. How should I store my white tea? And I've always said the jury's still out. I'm not quite sure. We're doing tests. I would be very confident in suggesting that if you wanted to move the white tea into that honeyed, fruity note that has soft, round quality, that I would store it at 65% humidity using Boveda humidity control packs, or if you're lucky enough to live in that sort of humidity zone, then go for that naturally. And I would store it as airtight as possible. Obviously, you're going to be opening up to take tea out to brew it, but don't do what is commonly recommended with pu'er tea, which is sort of leave it in a breathable bag. I think that with white tea, or at least what I'm going to be doing from now on, is airtight at sort of 60-65% humidity. I think that for me is the perfect point, but as I said, this is a matter of taste, and I'm certainly interested to keep going with this 72% one because it has such an interesting taste and it's a fascinating A/B to do between these two. And the dry, it goes to show that moisture level is the biggest factor in terms of changing your tea. If you want your tea to remain as close to the original tea as possible, then keeping it dry is a very, very good idea. So there you go. Let me know your thoughts, your opinions. This is just one conclusion from one tasting. A lot of you purchased the Baimudan aging study. So let us know your thoughts, whether you agree or disagree. You get different results, different conclusions. Put them all in the comments section below so that we can collate them all together. And hopefully we can finally put this matter to rest and we can get a proper community-based conclusion on how best to store your white tea. I should say that we're no longer selling this study, but you can now pick up the 2015 Baimudan in a pouch so that you can age it according to my conclusions, and make sure you read the comments section below and you can figure out how best to store your tea so that you get the optimum aging effects. That's it, tea heads. Check out our other videos, taste our teas wherever you are in the world by browsing mayleaf.com, and come visit us if you're ever in London. Other than that, I'm Don from Mayleaf. Thank you for being a part of the revelation of true tea. Stay away from those tea bags. Keep drinking the good stuff and spread the word, because nobody deserves bad tea. Bye.